If you want to learn more about effective management, head over to mattsingers.com and sign up for my free management training.
Welcome to the Mad Singers Management Podcast from madsingers.com, where entrepreneurs and business managers learn and share. If you like the show, don't forget to leave a review.
Hello, and welcome back to the Mad Singers Management Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Tristan Wright, all the way from Australia. How are you, Tristan?
I'm really good, thank you. Thank you very much for having me. I'm still adjusting to our current time zone because I've been away over in the US for 2.5 weeks, and jet lag is definitely a killer.
That is, it used to be a killer for me. I've after many years of way too much travel, I've kind of managed to get it under control. But it's never fun when it hits. Never fun.
We've obviously been in lockdown for the last 2 years, so I haven't done travel to the other side of the world as much as previous. So it's just readjusting the body.
Yep, that makes sense. So Tristan, there's people around the world who don't yet know who you are, believe it or not. Would you mind giving a little bit of an introduction to everyone and a background about yourself?
I definitely believe it because there's billions of people around the world. So, and I'm not kidding myself that I'm a celebrity by any means. So, for those of you that can't see, I've got a big smile on my face as well. So, I'm Tristan. I run a business consulting company called Evolve to Grow, but I started out in the engineering world. I studied engineering, mech eng and industrial design, and I played around in that space for a little bit. But I was always working for someone. And for me, I need to be running my own business. So I fell into running a cycling clothing business. I was riding my bike with some mates, and they all wanted some cycling clothing. And me being me, I said, yep, I'll organize it. And the very first lot of clothing that I organized was see-through. So we were out riding and everyone could see your bums through the lycra, which was not a good thing. But there was an opportunity there. So I set that business up and grew it into a 7-figure business in my early to mid 20s. And doing that, like having so much success in your early days, you become arrogant and have an ego because it's like, I've done this by myself and there's been no challenges. Within a 6-month period when I think I was about 27, 28, the Aussie dollar tanked. And at the same time, my wife left me. So went from running a successful 7-figure business to running a business that was running at a loss and being 200 grand in debt and having no idea how to deal with it. So I had the highs, I had the lows, and then I had the mental health issues to deal with it off the back of that after not having led a charmed life and then having all of these issues for me at the time come up. And I took a step back and thought, like, I can go back and get a day job and take years to pay off that debt, or I could restructure that business, improve it, make it profitable again, and actually start enjoying life. So I chose the latter, realized that I needed help. I couldn't do it myself, got advice, external advice. I was able to rebuild the business, pay off the debt, and make it attractive enough for someone to purchase it. So ended up selling off the business. And after that, took a bit of time off, did a bit of consulting, and then went and set up my current business. So that's the super, super quick sanitized version of my backstory.
Excellent. It sounds like you've been through some things.
Yeah. So definitely, when I look back on it and when I share this story, like for me, it's just part of life. But when I share it, people are like, yeah, wow, you've actually hit some really low rock bottoms and you've had some highs. So for me, at the end of the day, everything's a learning experience. And we just look back at it and use whatever happens in life as a learning experience for us to move forward and continually grow.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, people often ask me, say, oh, you have a great life or you have a difficult life or you've been through all this stuff. And I look at it the same way. I think, I mean, I don't see my life being particularly difficult or haven't been. But then again, I've done so many things that most people never have and never will. But I think it's exactly what you say. It's a learning experience, right? Like it's all about understanding, like, the bigger challenges you face and learn to overcome, the bigger challenges you can manage and handle. And I think as a life lesson, that's probably one of the biggest things for me, that, if you keep pushing yourself, if you keep getting challenged more and more and go through those challenges, everything else seems very easy when you have been at a much higher level. So that's been my experience so far.
Totally. And if we break it down to a personal level, to achieve true fulfillment, and for me, that's what we all want, to be fulfilled, we need to actually be continually growing and challenging ourselves, because if we're not challenging ourselves, we're being stagnant, and that means we're going backwards, and we're not going to be fulfilled. We're not going to be content.
Yeah, and I think just in life in general, I mean, if you look at people around, right, that there's so much, as you mentioned yourself, like depression and, anxiety, and people having a really difficult time. And in my experience, most of the time, it's they're lacking purpose, they're lacking, a reason to get up in the morning and so on. And I think if you do challenge yourself, and honestly, it doesn't even have to be work. I mean, I know people who challenge themselves consistently, learning some kind of sport or learning whichever, right? But it's, you need to be able to push yourself. You need to be able to see growth in yourself to feel that fulfillment, in my experience.
Totally. And the only problem is if you're challenging yourself in one area too much, you end up going down that rabbit hole and have those blinkers on. So for me, it's about having separate goals. You have your business goals, and you've got to have your personal goals, just so you can balance everything.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. Well, Tristan, one of the things that I've seen you talk about a little bit is sort of vision and sort of the whole journey for a business, right? And you have obviously been through some roller coaster experience yourself. So tell me a little bit about, how do you see sort of company vision? How do you see businesses and business owners in particular effectively executing these and effectively putting their businesses in a place where there's not just a good vision on paper, but actually a vision that people in the business live and breathe? So
I'll carry this with my experiences around businesses have, say, got 10 to 30 staff, maybe 40 staff. So once you get past that level, the 50 plus, it slightly changes the way it needs to be communicated amongst the team. But in this space, what I've found is the business owner, the leader, is actually not just poor at communicating their direction or their vision, but poor at actually knowing what they want out of their business and what the benefit, what they want their business to achieve for themselves. So the business owner has often created this fanciful or direction of the business, but there's not really enough connection between their vision to the benefit to themselves. So the very first, to get your team on the journey, the business owner needs to be clear about what they want to achieve and why it's a benefit to them. And if we break it down to the next level, why we understand why that vision is a benefit to the owner. The staff need to understand, other than just a pay packet, why is this company vision beneficial to them? So they need to, because everyone works transactionally for money, but to put that extra 1% in, there needs to be a clear understanding why you want to get on the bus, why there's a benefit for the leadership team to be getting on the bus for more than just that pay packet.
Yeah, that makes sense. And how do you go around getting to that point?
So the business owner is going to communicate, hey, this is the direction we want to go, but it's actually that the business owner needs to spend time with their leaders to understand what makes them tick. Why are they in this role? What makes them tick outside of business? Why do they get out of bed in the morning? So we need, and then once we get that, we can align the leadership team's personal goals with the business's goals. From a reward scenario, like, okay, cool, you're not motivated by money, but you're motivated by impact in this area. All right, so if you're motivated by impact in this area, let's achieve these goals and we'll be able to make that impact over there.
Yeah. And what if a business owner, if you're not actually clear what your business is supposed to do for you, how do you recommend people go about figuring that out? Because reality is a lot of people started a business maybe for monetary gains or whatever, but suddenly it grows big. And I've definitely noticed a lot of times where business owners they're ticking along, but they don't actually have a good vision, or they actually don't necessarily haven't sat down and thought about what is this thing doing for me? What is the goal with this company?
Totally. And you just end up getting into a habit and waking up every day, every week, and just doing the same thing, and you're sort of lacking purpose. And I was actually onboarding a new client just 2 weeks ago, and they said, we want to make $5 million and we want to be paying ourselves this much money. And like, hang on, guys, this doesn't correlate. So one of the based off margins. So one of the questions I said to them is, when you're in your 50s or in your 60s, when you want to retire, let's say you're assuming you want to retire, what do you want to be proud of? What do you want your kids to think of you? What do you want your staff to think of you? And what do you want your life to look like in, let's say, 10, 20 years time? So what we do is we work out where we want to be when we're, say, 60, and like, cool, this is what we want everyone to think of us. And this is what I want to think of myself. Why am I working so hard? Or why am I working like this? Because this is not the most efficient way to achieve that end goal. I don't need to actually earn $500,000 per annum, and I don't need to have a team of $100,000 of 100 people to achieve that goal. I only need to be doing X, Y, and Z. So it's aligning, working out what that end vision is, and then aligning the business objectives to get there. In saying that, some business owners are motivated by growth, are motivated by size, and that's okay. If you're motivated to have a massive impact, cool. We need to understand what that impact is and what we want our team and our family to think of us in the future.
Okay, that makes sense, and that's definitely an exercise that I believe would be very healthy for a lot of people to go and do, right? Because it probably sounds easy to do it, but actually really truly understand it and believe it and live it is a very different beast in my experience. So
Yes.
I definitely always recommend people spending some time thinking about this and thinking through all these things, because it is one of those things that also helps so incredibly much with internal motivation, right? And internal drive.
Yeah, it's having that alignment. So as soon as you've got alignment, you can be effective. But if you don't have alignment, you're just going to end up cruising or going off in the incorrect direction.
Yeah. Yep. That makes sense. So anything else with regards to vision that's important? So what are the continuous steps then?
So yeah, so once we've got that, all right, cool. We've got where we want to be. We've sat down, done what I call the rocking chair exercise. We know what we want people to think about us. Then we're like, all right, we know that we need to have a business of this size. Let's reverse engineer and create a roadmap the simplest way possible to achieve that. And we often realize, once we've done that, we realize that we can actually achieve that ultimate objective in a much shorter time frame than what we're giving ourselves credit for. The human mind tends to try and overachieve what we can do in the short term, but underachieve what we can do in the long term. So, or underestimate what we can do in the long term.
Yeah.
So we draw that line in the sand and then reverse engineer that roadmap, and then think, cool, I don't actually need to do all this myself. I can get my leadership team to do X, Y, and Z and make this small shift, and we'll get there so much quicker.
And you figure out your mission and your values and your big plan. And what's next then?
Mission, values, big plan, execute, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. So rather than just having that plan there, go and execute and understand that there are going to be mistakes made. I've got a saying that you need to F up and F up fast, because the more you F up, the closer you are to achieving your desired outcome. But if you don't make mistakes, you're just going to be continually staying where you are, and your mission, your vision is just a dream.
Yep, that makes sense. And I think,
So,
I mean, again, different personalities operate different, right? Like some are very gung-ho and everything happens right now, and some are a little bit slower and a little bit more conscientious people and so on. But generally, yeah, it's about taking action, right? I think I see from my coaching client, at least, I see a fair chunk of clients that are spending a significant amount of time like constantly learning and trying to understand more, and they always want more, but they never feel they're ready. And that's definitely a trap that I see quite a few people get into, right? Where they're constantly looking for more information. They don't think they're good enough. They don't think they have all the info yet. And they think it's all about information. But reality is, when it comes to business, when it comes to success, it's all about execution, right?
Yeah, and you just need to be 1 or 2 steps ahead of the people that you're being a subject matter expert for. So
Totally.
you learn, you make mistakes as you're executing, and you learn from them. If you're constantly educating yourself, you're valuing your time at $50 an hour, whereas you should be valuing your time at $500 or $1,000 an hour. So for me, it's go and spend the time where you're making $500 an hour or more, and anything less than that, you delegate that out.
Yeah, and that's also a difficult area, but yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. So, from your point of view, how long does it take to really get a good grasp on the vision and getting it implemented well and so on? What's typically the time frames?
How long's a piece of string? It really depends on, I guess, the business owner and where they are in their journey in terms of their maturity. So I've been working with a client for just on 3 years now, and we've grown his business. We've 4x'd his business in that time, but he's only in the last 6 months worked out how to communicate how to be 100% clear on the vision of his business and to communicate that to the leadership team. So it's a continual process, and he had a very loose vision to start with and direction, but it wasn't congruent with him at the start. So where we are now, it's much more congruent, and the leadership team totally get it, and the impact that's having on the efficiency of the team and profitability of the team is phenomenal. So long story short, it could be 3 months, it could be 3 years. And I'm not sure if you've had similar experiences with your clients, if you can hit the nail on the head in 3 months, that's an amazing effort.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I mean, it depends generally where people are, right? And I think it depends on the issues they're dealing with as well, right? Because I have a lot of clients where this is not necessarily the first thing getting addressed, because there's other, urgent issues or there's things that are holding the business back significantly. So while it's important, it might not be the most important right there and then, right? So
Correct.
It can definitely take a while, but I think fundamentally, again, like I'm such a huge believer in people, and I really focus a lot of time helping clients get the right people on board, because when you have the right people, it's everything just becomes so much easier.
Falls into place. Yeah. You hire on their ability, not their skill set. So you hire the right person and trust that you can train them into the role, because their mindset is the correct mindset for the business.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, Tristan, that's been a very interesting conversation. Any recommended resources or the likes if people are eager to get started on this and getting started with their vision?
So from a leadership perspective, Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, their books are phenomenal. So I'm sure you've heard of them. But yeah, I love Jocko and Leif's books. They give so much guidance and make it so easy to understand leadership culture and how to implement within business.
Yep, I totally agree. I love. I read all the books, so I'm a big fan as well.
Fantastic.
Excellent. If people are eager to get hold of you, what's the best way to do that, Tristan?
The simplest way is probably just to Google my name, Tristan Wright, Evolve to Grow. Otherwise, you can jump on my website, which is evolvetogrow.com.au.
Perfect. Well, Tristan, thank you very much for joining me today. It was a pleasure having you on board.
Thank you very much for having me, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you very much. And to the audience, thank you very much for hanging on all the way to the end. We'll be back again next week.
Thank you for listening to the Mad Singers Management Podcast. Please leave a review. It means the world to us. You can also learn more about management at madsingers.com.